Hello everybody, I'm Stella and this is Tarrant from Meeple University, and we are bringing out something that is not new but something that is well known. And this is where I want your opinion as well, what you think of Ark Nova by Capstone Games and Foyland.
Yes.
And distributed by VR Distribution in Australia.
Indeed. So this is we are far from having our finger on the pulse of what's hot here. This game, it's obviously been out for about a year and a half. It's been really one of the biggest things in the Eurogaming space over that time. Why would you want to tune in?
Why would you want to tune in? Because we want to know what you think of it. And then we are also going to talk about not just Ark Nova, but we discuss the other game that feels a bit like this, that we love. The game that is in our top 10 games ever, Terraforming Mars.
Indeed. We'll go into a bit of a deep dive of sort of our comparisons and our views here, and basically just another thought on Ark Nova, perhaps to whet your appetite for the upcoming expansion.
Yes, I cannot wait for it. So hopefully I'll be able to get that in Essenspiel, and hopefully I am going to Essenspiel. I am going to Gen Con. Hopefully I will see you at Gen Con. So,
and I shall hold down the fort.
In what way?
Yeah, fight off orcs.
Of course,
Tarrant's
really good at fighting at orcs. So we are going to do a really brief Orc Nova.
I'd play that.
I'll play that as well. So that would be a different
game
game
together. Just the fantasy-themed version, fantasy reskin of Ark Nova.
Or could be like Orc in cages rather than animals. That is the theme of Ark Nova. Ark Nova is about building your animals, getting sponsors, doing the right thing at the right time to gain wins. And the point scoring system, don't get me started. That is the review part. But because I assume a lot of you click this video because you know what Ark Nova is, or because you want to see, I don't know, me being funny but not funny. So whatever the reason is that you are here, please let us know that you're there. It would be really helpful if you hit like button and comments to us. Let us know what you think of Ark Nova. What do you think of the other games that is similar to Ark Nova?
And of course, if we're your favourite reviewers and you never buy a game without our opinion behind you, then finally you've got the chance to know whether you should get Ark Nova or not.
Or whether you know about Ark Nova or not. Let us know. And write in the comments what you think of it. What is your best strategy of Ark Nova? So I can fund a bit Tarrant, because Tarrant is unbeatable so far.
Unbeatable.
No. So here's why we can't stop playing Ark Nova. Starting with a really brief overview, just in case that you haven't heard of it, you haven't played it.
So here we have the layout for Ark Nova. It's a game that's all about getting animal cards to get points and putting them into enclosures in your own personal little map zoo, which is here. So this is the display of cards that you can chase for. This is a central board of other goodies and bonuses you can chase for points. And this is your personal board. Every turn, you will take one of your 5 actions using these cards. These cards range in strength from 1 to 5, and when you take the action, you resolve it at its current strength, and then slide it down to space 1. So you've got to be constantly cycling through these cards as they build up in strength. You can also collect these little X tokens, which will, or maybe they're pluses. No, they're X's. But thematically, no, mechanically they are pluses because they will increase the strength of an action by 1, let you get to them more quickly. As the game goes on, you'll also be chasing a number of places that you can upgrade these cards from their level 1 to their level 2 sides, and it makes these actions more powerful. The 5 actions are, you've got cards, which is a way of gaining more cards, either from the deck or from the display. And as you increase your reputation through the game and upgrade this card, you'll have access to some of these face-up cards, give you more flexibility and choice as you work through it. You've got association, which represents taking actions over here on this board. Some very important actions here. You can gain partnership icons with different regions, which help you to get certain animals more cheaply or meet some objectives. You've got these university icons, which can help you gain that reputation, or science icons or hand limit. And you can use this action to complete these objectives, which are big scoring and big engine building if you get sets of certain icons. You've got sponsors. Sponsors allows you to play cards that are sponsors cards that have these sorts of strength icons here. You can play them for free with this card as long as it's the right strength, and they will tend to be engine building cards, and they may have in-game objectives on them as well. Build allows you to build enclosures and structures in your zoo, so you'll have to pay costs for how much for how many spaces you cover. You place empty enclosures or sometimes special buildings like petting zoos. You can get bonuses for the icons that you cover, and you need these for your animals, because when you take the animals action, you'll be able to play 1 or 2 cards from your hand or from the display, potentially, if you've upgraded things. These animals will cost you money. They'll require a certain size of enclosure to be flipped over when you take them. Some of them have prerequisites. This one here, for example, it's a bird that needs 3 other birds before you can purchase it. And then it will give you points and other bonuses. There are 2 types of points in the game. There's appeal, which I loosely call tickets, where you move up on the ticket track. This will increase your income each time there's an income phase. And there is all conservation points. These are the green points. These advance more quickly around the track. They sort of cover 2 or 3 tickets each, and they give you some of these big bonuses early in the game and then rack up points quickly. There is an income timing mechanism here. Every time someone takes the cards action or one option on the sponsors action or some bonus effects, it will move this shared break marker down. When this reaches the end, it triggers a reset where players need to discard down to hand limits. It'll reset this board. You've got meeples that you send out to this board. You start with only 1, but you can build it up. You get those meeples back, and you get income from the track and all of your other income generating icons. The game will end once one player's 2 markers cross on this track. Meet or cross. There'll be some end game scoring, which will give you some extra points, and then you total up, you subtract the ticket score, you subtract the green score in tickets from your ticket score, and that is your final score. So you'll go through this whole game, you'll end up with a score of like 14, but really it's 14 plus 70 times 2. So you're making a lot of points. It's just that the numerical value at the end feels very unsatisfactory.
Or keep getting negative points. Like me.
Yeah.
Not always, but you know.
And that is the briefest summary of Ark Nova.
The briefest, whether you fast forward to this section now or not. Hopefully you have enjoyed this, or maybe you just not convinced why you should play Ark Nova while you have Terraforming Mars. And what are the differences? These answers we try to answer to you now.
Yes.
So, Ark Nova is such a big game. When I say big, or in a big box, it takes probably like 3 hours or 2 hours or whatnot to play. And there are so many strategies that you can do in the game. Replayability is very, very high. You can focus on one strategy and get other strategies to, you know, help your main strategy. You can do, like, fill up your board. So many. I don't know. I just like overwhelmingly many. Every time I play this, I use different strategy. So did you.
Yes, and it often is forced by the cards that are out here, because obviously there's a lot of points for those. But the cards you get at the start of the game, you are quite restricted towards the start of the game until you've done some upgrades. You're really only getting the cards that you draw blindly. But you can work on that as an upgrading tree to give yourself that flexibility more quickly. And that can, it gives you different ways of pivoting your strategy. Strategy can also be driven by the end-game cards that you take at the start.
If you ask me at least, what's the strategy? I don't know. I've seen lots of different strategies, winning or losing. It depends on a lot of things. And you see that this is not all of the cards. Terrence is hiding some of the cards.
The deck is very
away.
tall.
Yeah, it's very tall. So it's just so many cards that you can do. It is simple game when I first found out about the basic mechanics. It's basically just simply pick one card, do the action, and then move it. Like, is there any other games that has got that? I feel like there's at least one, but I might be wrong, one game that you delay the action, it gets more powerful. I swear.
It's things I've seen. I've certainly seen an action row like this, also a shared action row where you may have to pay more to do an action more quickly. A recharge mechanism is not unusual, particularly in battle types of games.
That's true.
Tribes, Dawn of Humanity, I think, is one
Yes.
that had a big action row. Even Woodcraft had a little bit of that, but again on a shared dial. So this one is your very personal dial.
I do like that. Is whether you want to do it straight away and gain the benefit and potentially sacrificing the strong actions or just a weak action. Just plan it right so you make sure that you got all the strong actions and not wasting it too much, especially at the start of the game. That's just those 5, but then you can upgrade, and those action drives other actions. I really love a game where simple action will drive other actions, or a series of other actions triggered by these particular 5 simple actions. It just there's something about the simplicity of it, rather than okay, there's so many things you can do. No, it's just only 5, but from this one you can do this. Oh yeah, okay, that's a great strong action, and it's a powerful one for me. To have this game like this is I like.
One of the things I find interesting in the early phases of the game, it kind of has not in as extreme a way, but it has a little bit of a food chain magnate milestones feel, because the things that upgrade you, you've got to kind of work. Sometimes you're going to take inefficient turns just to make sure you get the upgrades quickly and you get the upgrades you want. So you've only ever got, there's only 4 ways to upgrade your 5 cards. So you're always going to have to choose at least one of these that will stay on its weaker side. And you start with only one of these workers, which means you're very restricted on the powerful actions you can take over on this board. And you've got a key choice that you can make here. The second time you get a green point, you could choose to forego one of those card upgrades to get a worker more quickly and start to work this side of the game more quickly. But you need to work quite hard to get those green points. They're not easy to get early in the game. One of the ways you can get them is to get a card upgrade is to get 5 reputation. So you've got to go chasing, where can I find that reputation? I could get them here, I could get a couple of bonuses off my board, but actually getting those, it's 4 that you've got to get, actually finding them is sometimes a suboptimal thing to do.
Yeah, that's true.
But so much focus, there's so much that goes into making sure you can get those upgrades quickly and efficiently to then make the rest of your game flow quickly. So that's where I think it has that food chain magnate milestones element to it, because your first few turns, you kind of just, in that game, you go through the motions of some choices and actions just to make sure that you get those upgrades ahead of other players.
That is quite true. There's some sort of milestone, although in Food Chain Magnate, it's more competitive milestone rather than your own.
Yeah, it's a personal milestone here.
Personal
so
milestone,
you're not racing for it, but you're not racing for it because you'll lose it, but you're racing for it because someone will get there first.
Yeah. So many things. I mean, like, I can't stress enough, so many things you can do, and then, you want to do this one first. You want to try to complete this objective with a lower goal so that you can get ongoing income each round. That's also good, because one of the incomes, I mean, the starting one is like 5 money. That's probably good because money is a bit hard towards the start of the game. But this is actually good. This is a long-term win. So just advancing this track, the green track, once per reset, it's really powerful. But really, again, it depends on your strategies. So many things you can do and go, and just love this game. Do you like this game?
I like this game.
Like this game.
I'm partway between like and love. I think.
Okay, so it's you very, very like this game.
There's a lot of good elements to it. It's a
Yes.
good fun time.
So it's like could be I'm talking about money before, could be at one stage money is a struggle, but then another time, oh, I've got heaps of money. So what I'm gonna do with the money? Just keep going to this area and then just turning money into points. There are ways for you to utilize.
Yes, another good spot that you can race on here.
Yep.
You can get some really cheap green points if you race to this part first.
Yeah. So what are the 5 things that are similar to Terraforming Mars?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious why this game has
It is very.
attracted such comparisons with Terraforming Mars. I actually think of this game as being Terraforming Mars that you have to play with a Gantt chart, because the amount of personal planning steps is a huge step above what Terraforming Mars is.
That's true, actually.
In Terraforming Mars, you've got to work out, all right, I think this will work before this, that'll be more optimal. In this one, there are so many cards that have prerequisites, whether they be icons, having to have a enclosure for them and things like that, and having to have these in the right positions, you have to think really hard and far ahead. So it's a very, very high planning version of Terraforming Mars.
All right, so the number one similarity that I feel for, this is not in particular order, so number one that I feel is requirements of certain things. So when you play the cards, there are cards that requires you to have a maximum of 25 tickets. So in Terraforming Mars, there's also a card that, okay, you can't play this animal card if oxygen level is above this, or the heat, what's the other one? The heat.
The heat is too high.
It's too high, so you cannot play that game. So it's the minimum maximum requirement. Minimum maximum requirement?
Yep.
Yeah. So in this one, they are like doing a chicken, I can't remember, it's just like there's a few of those that has that requirements, so you gotta have to watch out. You have these cards, try to have this card early and keep it early, and then try to play it as soon as you can to be able to play those cards.
Yep, and some of them have the minimum requirements. They all have the
Yes.
requirement of a place on your map. Some of them have specific places. They have to be next to rocks or next to water or things like that.
Yeah. Number 2 is the amount of cards you have. I mentioned it earlier that there are lots and lots and lots of cards. So how many cards are there really?
Lots and lots. I would have to get the rulebook. That's 212.
212 cards. Maybe
Which
not.
is pretty much, I'm pretty sure the original Terraforming Mars had 219. So
There you
it's
go.
pretty much bang on.
That is number 2. So lots and lots of cards, meaning lots of strategies. And similarly, the cards that you want to have, maybe you're going to pick the ones with the similar ones with the objective that you can achieve. Maybe that's easier, or something that is not too expensive when you play the animals, so you can do it, you can use it because you want to try to get the cards out earlier, surely, and get the cards later. And then you have to discard to a certain amount of cards anyway at break time. So you don't want to get a wasted cards. So that is the similarity.
Yep.
Number 3, you are building a map. So the difference is that it's the map of your own and not the mutual map.
And that's a big difference for me. One of my favourite things about Terraforming Mars is the shared map.
Yes.
And the shared points for placement on that. So I lose a bit of that when you're playing your own map. This sort of feels like the 4 years later where most games have more solitary elements to them or have less direct interaction. But certainly, yeah, you're building that.
Yeah, some map, although it's like big different, but then there are maps in this game, I should say.
Yep, and there's even, very Terraforming Marsy is that there are some tiles that are specific to a card. There are always those. They always cause confusion in both games. Like, what is this? It's in this little pile of random single-use tiles.
There you go. So number 4 is there are more than one track scoring-ish that you're trying to achieve. Well, in Terraforming Mars, it's not so much as scoring because there's oxygen, there's heat, and there's Venus. Sorry, that's the expansion. And
oceans.
And ocean, sorry. Yeah. And this one, there are 2 different tracks that you try to get together. It's different, it's just different mechanics, but you still have more than one track you have to look at and combo or trying to achieve and trying to balance them all.
Yeah, and you can specialize in one versus the other.
Correct.
One of them gives you money income, which is very much like Terraforming Mars as well.
Indeed.
And one of them gives you more, gives you points more quickly and engine building. So you can target one versus the other and do either way quite successfully. And the fifth similarity is the way you do have those 2 types of cards. Terraforming Mars had 3, the red, green, and blue. But essentially, you had the green and the blue was the engine building cards, and the green was the point scoring ones, loosely speaking.
Yes.
And you've got that here as well, with the sponsor cards giving you that engine build, and the animal cards giving you the points.
That's indeed correct. So at least you can focus on this type of cards, and the blue one, oh, that's not the blue one, that's the blue one, it's your action card, is the one that you have to pay to bring it out to the table, which is the animals.
So those are
The 5.
I think the 5 most obvious similarities, and there's no doubt this is why the 2 games have been compared so
yeah.
much.
So if you think that there's another one or replacing one or there's a 6th one or whatever, please let us know in the comments as well, because I like bullet points. ... 5 bullet points.
Yeah. One thing I think bears discussion about this game is the player interaction.
Yes.
And we can compare that to Terraforming Mars as well.
That would be number 6 actually.
Well,
there is a thing that
comparable.
Yeah, comparable. That is the things that affect other players, so you have to watch out for other players. Kind of like +1, so that there's something actions that is a bit mean to other people, or you can remove them to a friendlier game. And there are things that you have to watch out. Okay, you got that one, I will get more points if you play that card. So that is similar to Terraforming Mars.
I think, again, just coming back to Ark Nova and thinking from a standalone basis, because we always have this discussion in our in-depth reviews, is I like to have some player interaction, and I like to have particularly timing and fear, and you need that less. You're more happy to play the multiplayer solitaire.
Yes, it's true.
One thing I've really noticed is there's a big difference in interaction between 2 and 4 player games in Ark Nova. When we've played 2 players, it has felt very multiplayer solitaire. I've never really had to think about what you were doing very much at all. At 4 players, I like it a lot more because there's a number of things that become tense.
Okay.
You're allowed to take the same space in here, but you're not allowed to take the same one of these. So these will disappear. If you don't get the one you need, and you don't get it early, then you miss out until the next break. Particularly early in the game, the break timer is a really interesting element, because if players have been building up their cards, they want to play them before they lose them here when this resets. And so the break timer becomes a much more tense part. And because more cards are cycling through and more players are taking cards from here, picking the cards you want becomes a key thing. And that is what I always... The sign of good player interaction in a Eurogame for me is that if I have to take a suboptimal action or think about taking a suboptimal action because I fear that I'm going to lose a permanent opportunity, like the card I really want, those are the decisions that I really like. And so I didn't get really much of that at all at 2-player Ark Nova, but I got it at 4 players. So I really prefer this at the higher player count, even though turns can be complex and it kind of increases downtime.
Was actually that much lots of downtime, because you got to think your move, unless it's someone else did exactly what you wanted to do almost. I'm like, oh no, happened to me before. I agree, it is quite more interactive in higher player counts, and as you introduce to everyone, it doesn't really matter for me when a game is more multiplayer solitaire. I quite enjoy I'm just doing what I want to do, but that's just add more tense where you can just need to have a look at what's going on. But those bare things, bear icons, bear strategy, where everyone else plays bear, you play bear, and you get the benefit, you're going to have to look at other players as well into play counts, not just higher play counts.
True. And then if we step back and we compare the player interaction to a game of Terraforming Mars, I think the interactions are different but of a similar level at 4 players. So when you've got the drafting in Terraforming Mars, you've got the competitive placement on the board, and you've got the high consequence races for the milestones and awards. So I think if you average it out, they probably end up at a pretty similar amount of interaction overall.
That's probably it.
And so that brings us to the end of the game. And I think that's probably, if there's any one thing we both have reservations about with the end of the game, it's its abruptness.
Oh my gosh. It's super abrupt. It's leading even to sometimes unsatisfactory feeling. I was like, oh, in one game, oh no, it's finished. No, or at the end of the game, I think I got this good score, and then everyone else counts their end of game score. I'm like, no. Be either way.
Yeah, the ending is very abrupt.
Abrupt.
When someone reaches, by the time you get to the end of the game, if you've planned everything out correctly, you should be getting like 10, 15, even 20 points per turn by taking animals and association actions, because there's a lot of points in those. Even build, if you cover everything off, you get your 7 tickets for build. So there's lots of escalating points at the end of the game. But when someone's markers cross, everyone else gets one more turn. And it's very abrupt. And it means if you aren't watching what everyone else is doing, watching when that's going to end, and timing those last couple of actions right, it's going to have a very significant impact on your final score. I just kind of feel like holistically, for a game that has this much slow build-up and engine build and length, it's unusually abrupt how quickly it finishes.
Yep.
And it's unusually punishing how quickly
Correct.
it finishes. You compare that with Terraforming Mars, where you finish the entire generation, so everyone gets to play everything out that they were planning to for the round. And sometimes whether it ends this round versus next round is a real tension point. In this case, it can pretty much determine the whole game.
Totally. Just more than like a few occasions really where, the first game, that's the worst. First game, I did not know that was going to end. I was like, I stopped playing. I was like, I was going to flip the table, but I did not. I think about it. I was like, I don't like this. What is going on? And I thought about it for a while. And then a few days later, I want to play it again.
Yeah, you probably had like 25 or 30 points coming in the next 2 turns.
Yeah.
And I'd probably spent all my
petrol
tickets at that point. I didn't have the money or I didn't have the
Petrol
space
tickets.
on my board to get very much more.
Yeah.
But because I'd managed to get there 2 turns ahead of time, it really severely impacted. It's almost like Scythe, where experienced Scythe players have worked out how they can complete a certain faction within 16 turns or something and get to the end. It's like if you waste a turn on one of those, you're not going to get to your trigger. So it is part of this game. I think it can be quite a frustrating and dissatisfying part of the game.
I wonder if you have played where a version, you might get out the nasty cards for a friendly game, and then you add a rule so that you, after the end game triggers, and you get 2 more turns, for example. I think that might be, I don't know, I'm just interested if anyone has tried that.
Or if you play to the next break, maybe.
That's right, rather than like what's...
I mean, players could
Depends.
just escalate it to that break.
Correct, yeah.
Or if you time it right. Because there's some interesting timing elements with the break as well, with the nasty cards. But it'd definitely be a softer landing if you played to the next break.
Yeah. I wonder, maybe we should try that next time. But I just need to know if you have tried that variation. Surely, hopefully, somebody will tell me something about that.
And it's not that I'm opposed to games that do have an abrupt ending. We mentioned Scythe just before. Abrupt endings can be a really an interesting timing interactive part of a game, but
Because of the slow build you mentioned earlier.
it feels oddly out of place in this game, and maybe there's no scientific explanation for why that's the case, but it just doesn't quite feel in place for me in this game.
Just
And
a
it's-
touch.
yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Doesn't mean it's not an interesting decision point though.
I still love it. I still finishing up a game, feeling upset, but then a few days later, I want to play again. How about I try this one? How about that one? Ooh, I have to watch out that one next time. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Again, please let us know that you're there. It'd be really helpful if you can please subscribe to us for more of these videos and other videos. And hopefully you are doing something super fun today, whether it's playing board games, doing gardening, watching TV, your favorite Netflix show. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.